What? What is this? Deadweight? It was the anniversary party for the company's founding. My father and I were supposed to sit at the same table, but to my shock, the name card next to mine read Deadweight. I was stunned, but this wasn't a dream. This was real. I had no idea what was going on or who could have done it. Not only me, but even my father had a frozen expression on his face. The people around us didn't notice since they weren't paying attention to the name cards on each table. Who would do such a thing? I'm so sorry if this upset you. I'll definitely find out who did it. Ah, there you are. I was wondering what you were up to. Found your name card, huh? Just as I crumpled my father's name card in frustration, I heard that infuriating voice from behind. It was Samuel, our department head. When I turned around, he was grinning as he stared at my hand. At that moment, I knew he was the one who created this awful name card. Was it you, Samuel? Yeah, it was me. This party's only for the elite. Why don't you and your father just head home? He smirked arrogantly, looking down on us as he said it loud and clear. That was the last straw. There are lines you simply don't cross, and this was one of them. Are you serious? Take that back now. You still have time to fix this. Why would I take it back? I didn't say anything wrong. You and your father are just useless freeloaders. So just leave already. He spoke with such confidence, as if everything he said was undeniable truth. At this point, there was no point in arguing. If he was so blind to the reality of his own situation, he'd soon learn the hard way. My name is Trevor. I currently work at an IT company, leading a busy but fulfilling life. But getting here wasn't easy. It had been a tough journey. Let me take you back to my childhood, when I was still in elementary school. I attended a public elementary school and would come home every evening. That day was no different when I arrived home at the usual time. I found my father there. It was unusual since he was normally at work during that time, so I entered the house feeling a bit puzzled. Hi, Dad. Don't you have work today? I got a call from your mom and came home quickly. She's planning to leave us. What? When I entered the living room, I saw my father sitting there, looking a bit dejected. He told me about my mother. I was utterly shocked, and to be honest, I was at a loss for words. Sure, my parents hadn't been getting along lately, but I never imagined my mom would leave. Why all of a sudden? I don't get it. Mom's leaving? What does that even mean? She's moving out to live with someone new. From now on, it'll just be you and me. Between the two, I'd always been closer to my dad. He played with me when I was younger, and I naturally gravitated toward him. If I had to choose, I'd choose my dad. But for an elementary school-aged kid like me, my parents' sudden divorce hit hard. After that, I stopped going to school and shut myself in my room. I bought sushi today. Eat it whenever you want, it's in the fridge. From that day on, I stayed locked in my room, barely talking to my dad. But even then, he always cared for me and remained on my side. I never went back to elementary school, but over time, I began to break free from my reclusive life. Eventually, I entered middle school and started attending classes. My lack of communication skills, a result of my isolation, made it hard to make friends, but I managed to graduate. Since I wasn't part of any clubs, I spent most of my time with my computer. That's why, after finishing middle school, I became a freelance programmer and entered the world of engineering. How's work going? Are you doing well? There are still a lot of things I'm not used to, but I'm enjoying it. That said, I want to grow as an engineer. So I'm thinking about switching to an IT company in the future. I see. If there's anything I can do to help, don't hesitate to ask me anytime. My father works at a major corporation and is exceptionally capable at his job. Unlike him, a highly educated and elite professional, I'm a middle school graduate who stumbled along the way. But he never looked down on me. Instead, he accepted me as I was, providing a home where I could relax and focus on my work. 2 years later, I transitioned to an IT company and officially started my career as an engineer. I worked tirelessly every day, and by the time I turned 30, I had become independent and started my own company. Dad, can I talk to you about something? What is it? After establishing my company, I devoted myself to growing it. Before I knew it, the company had expanded to over 100 employees. But then, I hit a major hurdle. Recently, I feel like I've been failing as a CEO. On top of that, I don't think it suits me. I feel more comfortable working in the field than managing people. I never had great communication skills or strong leadership abilities. Balancing the role of a CEO while growing the company was beginning to wear me out. Well, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. That's why I wanted to ask you to take over my position, Dad. What? The moment I said that, my father looked genuinely surprised. After all, he still worked for a major company, and it was a bold proposal even for family. I know it's a big ask, but the company has grown significantly, and I can only entrust it to someone I completely trust. Given your experience leading people in a major corporation, would you consider taking over? I never thought I'd receive such an honorable request from my own son. There's no reason for me to refuse, so I'd be happy to do it. I was stunned by his response, but more than that, I was overjoyed. I didn't expect him to agree so readily, but he seemed determined to do anything for me, and it reignited my motivation. Thanks, Dad. I'm counting on you. From that point on, I focused on leading field operations and balancing my work as an engineer. With my father managing the company, we operated like a two-person team. My instincts were right. My father used his vast experience and knowledge to unify the employees, rapidly expanding the company. Another decade passed. The company was so stable that even the executives my father had trained could run it without him. One day, I heard you're the project manager for something now. Is that true? Yes. Are you the newly appointed department head, Samuel? Yeah. Word about me must have reached you from the executives. When I arrived at work as usual, there was a large man sitting at the department head's desk, feet propped up on the table. I'd heard from HR that a new manager would be joining, so I immediately realized who he was, but I hadn't expected such behavior. Looking forward to working with you. So, I heard you're a middle school graduate. Is that true? There were already plenty of things wrong with this conversation. First, his choice of words. Addressing someone as a middle school graduate so casually on a first meeting? It was baffling how someone like this managed to hold down a corporate job. And most of all, putting his feet on the desk? It was beyond belief. That's correct. I'd been working with computers since middle school, so I became an engineer straight out of there. Because of that, I have a bit more experience than most people my age. Wow, that's pathetic. This company must be going downhill if they're making a middle school graduate a project manager. Are they planning to collapse or something? He glared at me with disdain, clearly hung up on my academic background, and let those words fly. Sure, my education isn't something to brag about. But I've consistently delivered results, and the project I'm managing right now is running smoothly. For someone who just joined the company to act like they know everything was more than a little aggravating. You're right, my academic background may not be impressive, but I'm doing my job properly, so please rest assured. I responded, not bothering to hide my slight annoyance. Middle school graduate, middle school graduate. Does he not understand that academic credentials aren't everything? Oh? Are you talking back to me? For someone who graduated only from middle school, you sure are cocky. That was one unnecessary comment too many. While he might technically be my superior in this workplace, It's unacceptable to suppress people from a position of authority. A workplace like that stifles flexibility and creates a toxic environment. Sure, when you're younger, emphasizing academic credentials makes some sense. But at our age, why is he still hung up on this? In a professional setting, people should be evaluated by their work, not their past education. I graduated from the prestigious Tokyo University. You should consider yourself lucky to even be working alongside someone like me. It's been over 20 years since he graduated, yet he's still clinging to past glories. How pathetic. For someone of his age, bragging about academic achievements just comes across as sad. In the workforce, producing results in your current role is infinitely more important than a stellar academic record. Even if someone lacks formal education, companies value those who deliver results. People with high academic credentials but poor performance aren't what companies need. Whether he understands this or not, my main concern was whether such a person could effectively lead as the new department head. Once this project is over, don't expect to be given any significant assignments. Now that I'm the department head, things will be done my way. Everything the previous head set up is irrelevant. That's fine, but I hope you'll judge based on work results. Not on academic achievements from over 20 years ago, but on what's being done now and what outcomes are being delivered. That's the real measure of an employee's ability. I said it directly and clearly. My attitude was clearly irritating him. He even clicked his tongue in frustration. Don't you dare talk back to me. Got it? Now, get back to your work. We ended up in an argument on his very first day, but I didn't feel I had said anything wrong. It was Samuel, who judged everything solely based on academic credentials, who was clearly in the wrong. Still, there was no point in dwelling on it now. I decided to focus on what I needed to do. 3 months later, the project I had been managing as a project manager was completed, and I was assigned to a new project. You probably remember what I said before, but just stick to downstream programming on this one. What? You're not fit for important assignments. This is a small project for a minor company, so even if you mess up, it won't matter. I wasn't angry because my pride was wounded. Sure, downstream programming is less challenging compared to what I've done before. But if that's the job I'm given, I'll tackle it with everything I've got. That's the responsibility of a professional. Because that's the standard expected of an employee. Failure doesn't matter. What made me angry was Samuel's mindset that mistakes didn't matter just because it was a project for a small business. The same applies to his attitude about academic credentials. What perspective is he even coming from? No matter the job, you have to give 120% effort. Anything less damages the company's credibility and is incredibly disrespectful to the client. Whether it's for a small to medium-sized business or a global corporation, the responsibilities remain the same. Being a small to medium-sized business is not an excuse to cut corners. That should go without saying, don't you think? What? Are you seriously saying that? I couldn't understand why he looked so shocked. I felt like throwing his own words right back at him. If you think it's okay to slack off just because it's a small company, you're making a huge mistake. I knew Samuel looked down on me, and I knew saying this would likely provoke him. But I couldn't stand by and let his attitude go unchecked. I hadn't mentioned that I was the founder of the company, but I had my own principles, and I had no intention of lowering myself for Samuel. So, are you saying you want to pick a fight with me? I'm not interested in such a petty level of discussion. Pick a fight? Is that something a grown adult should even say? Well, fine. You'll regret standing up to me this much, I'll make sure of it. Remember that. With that, Samuel walked back to his desk. I was furious, and I couldn't just let this go. Determined to take action, I decided to consult my father. This kind of behavior can't be allowed. He's unfit to be in a leadership position, and more than that, he's a bad influence on the company. You're right. I completely understand what you're trying to say, Trevor. My father nodded thoughtfully as he listened. Maybe you, as the CEO, should give him a firm warning. Otherwise, this won't improve anytime soon. I trusted that my father, who had a knack for handling people, would resolve this issue. However, his response was unexpected. Honestly, I don't think it'll work if I approach him from above. And besides, people can't change their true nature. What? Someone who genuinely looks down on others from the bottom of their heart won't change, no matter what anyone says. That kind of personality can't be fixed. People like that aren't needed in a company. Sometimes, you have to be cold-hearted enough to let them go. Since starting the company, I had always carried a heavy responsibility. It was my duty to provide for the employees. That's why I believed it was the company's role to nurture and support even employees who struggled to perform well. But my father had a different philosophy. He believed in drawing a line at a certain point. He was the one who had grown the company to its current size. I decided to trust his judgment. While I hoped that Samuel might change if my father said something, I realized that the world isn't always so simple. And so, I returned to my usual daily routine. So, your dad's in this company too? He introduced himself to me earlier today. What? Yeah. I heard he's just a regular employee. Different department, though. Could it be that he got in through connections? Since the company had grown, interactions between upper management and field employees had become less frequent. We also didn't require a CEO interview during recruitment, so Samuel probably didn't know my father was the company's CEO. Considering I had just talked to my father about Samuel, he had likely greeted Samuel while pretending it was a coincidence. I wasn't sure what he was planning, but now Samuel knew my father was in the company. Your dad looked pretty shabby. He's the kind of guy who would raise a low-educated loser like you. Guess it runs in the family, huh? Excuse me? Next time HR makes decisions, I might just demote both of you. Better be ready. As Samuel smirked and spat out his remarks, I let out a deep sigh. Starting with mocking my education, he then moved on to harassing me for speaking the truth. What could he possibly find enjoyable about doing such things? I had already decided that I couldn't continue working with someone like him, and sooner or later, we would part ways. There was no way someone like Samuel could be entrusted with the critical role of department head. This incident solidified that decision for me. However, I was busy preparing for the company's 20th anniversary celebration party, which was just a month away. The event was a large-scale party, with all employees from the main office invited. The company had come this far thanks to the hard work of countless employees over the years. And I was determined to make it a celebration worth remembering. Finally, the day of the party arrived. I saw the venue during the walkthrough, but it really turned out to be an extravagant event. Enjoy yourself today, Dad. Thanks. I will. The venue was even more luxurious than I had imagined, and the employees who had already arrived looked like they were having a great time. Seeing how much effort everyone put into their work every day, I wanted them to fully enjoy this celebration. With that thought, I made my way to my seat. What? What is this? Deadweight? My father and I were supposed to sit at the same table, but to my shock, the name card next to mine read Deadweight. I was stunned, but this wasn't a dream. This was reality. I didn't know what was going on or who could have done this. Even my father's face was frozen in disbelief. The other guests didn't notice since they weren't paying attention to the name cards. Who would do something like this? I'm so sorry if this upset you. I'll figure out who's responsible for this. Oh. I was wondering what you were doing, but it looks like you found your name card after all. As I crumpled up my father's name card in frustration, that infuriating voice came from behind me. It was Samuel. When I turned around, he was smirking, staring at the card in my hand. In that moment, I knew it was Samuel who had made this awful name card. Was this your doing, Samuel? Yeah, it was me. This party's only for the elite. Why don't you and your father head home? Looking down on us, he said it loud and clear. That was it, I completely lost my temper. There are some things you just don't say, no matter what. Are you serious? Take that back. You still have time to fix this. Why would I take it back? I said nothing wrong. You and your father are just useless freeloaders. So just leave already. Samuel's smug confidence made it clear he believed his words were absolute. If he was going this far, there was no point in arguing. He didn't realize the precarious position he was in, but he was about to find out. Shall we head home, Mr. Abbott? Samuel says an incompetent shareholder and CEO should leave. Yeah, let's do that. The other employees can enjoy the party without us. When I said this in front of Samuel, his smug expression immediately froze. He probably wasn't sure whether to believe me, but the mention of shareholder and CEO struck a nerve. The thing is, I wasn't lying. I founded this company and hold all the shares. And my father is the CEO of this company, a position I appointed him to. I wasn't exaggerating or making anything up. This is ridiculous. Do you really think I'd believe that? Stop lying. I'm not lying. My son founded this company, and once it grew, I took over as CEO. I'm using my experience as a director at Amazon's Japan branch. What? You're telling me you worked at a global giant like that? Stop making things up. Samuel's voice betrayed his disbelief, but it was clear he was also starting to panic. Finally, Samuel began to notice not just the composed expressions on my and my father's faces, but also the pale faces of those around him. While the two of us remained calm and dignified, the others looked utterly stricken. I had instructed the upper management to keep our true identities hidden in order to expose Samuel's true nature. But his outrageous remarks, made in ignorance of who we were, had clearly sent chills down everyone's spines. Why is everyone acting like this? Isn't it obvious? Anyone would be horrified to hear such statements from their subordinate. Though it seems you still don't believe who we are. When my father said that, Samuel glanced around at the faces of the people nearby. One by one, they began to nod slightly, and at last, Samuel seemed to grasp the truth about our identities and the precarious position he was in. His face turned pale in an instant, his body trembling slightly as his breathing became unsteady. I am truly sorry. I had no idea you were Mr. Abbott, the CEO, and a shareholder. Please forgive me. Samuel bowed deeply, bending at a 90-degree angle. But neither my father nor I were moved. Samuel's change in attitude was purely because he realized our positions were far above his own. Up until this moment, he had assumed we were beneath him and had acted accordingly with reckless arrogance. That doesn't simply disappear, and I can't trust someone who changes their attitude so drastically based on status. Do you think just apologizing makes everything okay? Honestly, I don't even understand what you're apologizing for. Just saying sorry doesn't automatically fix everything. I deeply regret the incredibly disrespectful attitude I displayed toward you, Mr. Abbott, and the shareholder. I'm truly remorseful. Please, could you forgive me? It was as I expected. He completely misunderstood his mistake. It's true that one's attitude toward higher-ups should be mindful and respectful, as there are standards of decorum. But that's not what I was talking about. If he's apologizing only because of our higher status, does that mean he'll continue to behave the same way toward those he sees as beneath him? I was addressing a fundamental issue, but Samuel didn't seem to grasp it at all. So, if my father and I were in lower positions than you, are you saying your actions wouldn't have been wrong? What? You're apologizing because we're above you in rank, correct? At this point, I realized I likely wouldn't have another chance to speak with Samuel, so I decided to say everything I was thinking. As a person, I can't trust you. Do you understand what I'm saying? I truly regret my actions. I know now that what I did was wrong, no matter who it was directed at. In that case, leave this company. I have no intention of continuing to work with you any longer too. Hearing this, my father, who had been silent up to this point, added his agreement. We had no intention of continuing to employ someone like Samuel. Trust in him had been irreparably damaged. Are you firing me? I swear I'm truly sorry. Please, give me one last chance. You're a professional, aren't you? And yet, you can't distinguish between right and wrong. Why would someone like you deserve another chance? Please. I'll do anything. Finally, Samuel began groveling, dropping to his knees and bowing deeply. Clearly, he was desperate to save himself, oblivious to the judgmental stares of those around him. But it was too late. What Samuel had done couldn't be undone, nor could it be forgiven. Fine. If you're willing to work as the lowest-ranking employee, I'll consider giving you a last chance. I didn't expect Samuel to accept this proposal, but I decided to give him the opportunity. This is what a last chance means. If he wants to continue working at our company, he must face appropriate consequences. With his salary and position reduced, he would have to work from the role he once looked down upon. If he could accept that, I was willing to give him one final chance. Come on, there's no need for jokes like that. I'll accept a pay cut as a sign of my remorse. What? I was so shocked I momentarily lost my words. How could he still speak so arrogantly in this situation? A pay cut as if he had any say in the matter? The fact that he thought he could dictate his punishment only proved that he felt no genuine remorse. From now on, we might need to conduct proper CEO interviews to ensure we don't end up hiring someone like this again. What? Do you understand now? Our minds are made up. You have no place in this company. Don't bother coming in tomorrow. And there's no seat for you at this party. Please leave immediately. It seems Samuel believed he could remain in the company despite facing minor consequences, but my words made his face twist in displeasure. However, I was completely serious. Surely you're joking, right? Enough. I don't want to get angrier, and this party is meant to be a celebration. Leave now. Time is valuable, so you should start looking for a new job. Though, at your age, there aren't many companies willing to hire someone who's been fired. When my father finished speaking, Samuel collapsed to his knees on the spot. The people around him escorted him outside, bringing the matter to a close for the time being. Perhaps upset at being kicked out, Samuel repeatedly called my phone, but I blocked his number. After that, the party went off without any issues, and we were able to enjoy the evening. About Samuel, just to confirm, you're certain about firing him, right? Of course. The main reason is that I can't trust him as a person, and this isn't about personal emotions. But honestly, I can't forgive Samuel for how he treated you, Dad. No one, no matter who they are, gets to treat you like that. I had every legitimate reason to fire Samuel, and I didn't wield my authority out of personal spite. However, it was true that I held a personal grudge against him. From a young age, my father had been my savior. Without him, I wouldn't be who I am today. No matter the situation, he was always on my side, supporting me unconditionally. He provided the funding to start my company and always extended a helping hand whenever I was in trouble. To me, my father was everything, and I couldn't tolerate anyone treating him poorly. In my life, there's no one more important than Dad. Maybe it sounds childish to some, but that's how much I'm grateful to you. Thank you, Trevor. Hearing that makes me so happy. After the divorce, there were times when I thought I might break, but having you kept me going. I thought, how could I give up now? With that, my father ruffled my hair roughly with his big hand. He used to comfort me like that whenever I was feeling down as a child. It brought back a wave of nostalgia and warmed my heart. After it became just the two of us, you became my everything. So don't hesitate to rely on me, and let's keep supporting each other. Yeah. Let's do that. We shared a heartfelt hug, strengthening the bond between us once again. Later, we sent Samuel a formal termination notice, officially severing ties with him. Of course, I anticipated the possibility of resentment, and I didn't feel good about it. But this is the harsh reality of the professional world. While I doubted his personality would change, I still hoped that, if he truly reflected on his actions, he might succeed in his next workplace. Hey, about Samuel. I heard from the board that he found another job pretty quickly, but apparently, it's at a pretty rough company. Really? Is that so? Yeah. Getting fired at his age hit him hard, and he only got one job offer. On top of that, being fired led to his wife and kids leaving him. He's apparently living a miserable life now. I was genuinely shocked by his downfall. I had hoped he might turn his life around, but this was unexpected. His wife and kids left him? You mean they got divorced? Seems so. Apparently, he was a domineering husband and acted like a tyrant at home. When he got fired, he probably lost whatever value they saw in him. I see. No family waiting for him, stuck with a terrible job. I doubt he'll last long. Not that it's our concern anymore. If he had worked diligently, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Everything that happened was a consequence of Samuel's own actions, and there was no reason for us to feel sympathy or extend a helping hand. Following this, I implemented significant reforms in the company. We conducted thorough checks to ensure there were no other employees like Samuel and reviewed the work environment to make it more pleasant for everyone. While no major issues were uncovered, it became clear that some employees had been harboring unease. I thought this was normal for a workplace, so I just tried not to let it bother me. Even so, it's true that you weren't entirely comfortable. I'll discuss this with upper management and make sure things improve. Thank you for sharing your valuable input. Yes. Thank you for addressing even minor concerns like this. I'll keep working hard. By addressing these small complaints, I worked to create an even better work environment for everyone. This experience taught me a lot. I had built this company from the ground up and earned the respect of many. But no matter how high I climb, resting on my laurels would be the beginning of the end. It's crucial to remember that the company thrives because each employee works hard every single day. Thank you so much for giving me valuable experiences and even a generous wage as an intern. I'm excited to officially join as a full-time employee in April. Being an intern doesn't change the fact that you contributed to our work. I'm looking forward to seeing you achieve even more. Keep it up. I will. As a member of the company's leadership, I know that sometimes cold, hard decisions must be made. However, the most important thing is to connect with each individual. I've wandered through dark times in my life more than once. But every time, my father was there by my side, supporting me. That kind of connection isn't limited to family, but it applies in the workplace too. I hope to never forget that, and to continue working with joy every day.